Welcome to the Look Good Move Well podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Look Good Move Well podcast, everybody. Satya, you are about to go on a trip next week. You don't take many trips. What are your must-have packing essentials for a trip? And just, let's start there.
Okay. TMI alert. Menstrual products.
Solid.
I am in the stage of my life where I just don't know what's coming when, and I got to be prepared.
Excellent.
My little travel coffee maker.
Yep.
I've got this like silicone, like flattened, like 1 cup, pour over deal.
Yeah.
That's definitely come in clutch and does not take up much room. And then I like my wardrobe just so, so I like to, be very thoughtful about my wardrobe choices. I'm not like a packer that like stuffs everything to the gills. I just, I have my kit and, my versatile pieces, and I like to look chic and I like to be prepared and have practical things. And yeah, that's all.
Rad.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
For somebody who's as much a lover of coffee as I am, I have come to the conclusion that I don't travel with any coffee gear anymore.
Yeah.
I used to pack all the kit, and now I'm just going to go out and drink whatever coffee I can find. And if it's good, it'll feel amazing. And if I can't find good coffee wherever I'm traveling to, so be it.
That's my strategy for my second cup. But, I like to wake up early, and I'm often up earlier than a coffee shop would be open. And I also like to be in my unmanicured state for a while. So
Sure.
I need to have a cup of coffee in the privacy of my own room before
Right.
I venture out and do that whole
I get
thing.
it. I totally get it.
You can just pop up and be on the street in 5 minutes.
This is true. And I'll also even, accept the Keurig in-room.
I'll accept that as well.
Yeah.
I'll get in there.
Yeah. I just was like, when I was packing an entire like tote bag of like coffee stuff just for like a one night overnight with Megan, I was
You're
like,
okay.
I would literally bring my electric tea kettle. I'd bring like 1 or 2 different drippers. I'd have all these filters. I'd have 2 or 3 different coffees. I'd have a hand grinder.
No.
I'd have like,
Oh no.
I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
It made for some cool photos and some Instagram posts.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I'm excited to hear how the trip goes, and maybe next time we're on the show, we'll let everybody know. But you're headed to where?
I'm headed to St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yeah, never been.
Yeah.
Should
I used
be-
to live in Florida, but not that area.
Yeah. Satya, if you guys have listened long enough, you probably
I've
know that
lived
Satya's
so
lived
many
pretty much
places.
any place we've ever talked about. Oh yeah, I used to live there.
Oh, yeah,
I used to live there. I used to live there.
Live there. Live there too.
I used to live in Eastern Russia. It's like, wow. Didn't.
And my family's actually from there.
Jesus. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, it is. We're well into 2024 at this point.
Yeah.
And I know it's probably been on your mind, and if not, this is a good time to put it into your mind. Everyone has goals that they set at the beginning of the year, and I really encourage people to set goals in different areas of their lives. It could be like, what's your personal goals, professional goals, family relationship goals, and of course, health and wellness goals. And once you have stated goals, you have to create a strategy of how you're going to arrive at those goals. And with health and fitness, where can you get the most bang for your buck? What are the 5 things that can actually deliver probably 95% of the results that you want? This is something I just spent some time writing about this week, which is, I'm somebody who definitely checks those 5 buckets, or I do my best to check those 5 buckets all throughout the year. And I'm constantly being pulled to say, like, what can I do more? What more can I do to get that little extra edge? And what I've found time and time again is that you do these 5 things, you get 90 to 95% of the results. If you want to get that extra 5 to 10%, you got to do like 2 to 3 times as much work just to get that little extra bit.
All right.
And for some people, that is absolutely worth it. And for me, at times of the year, it is totally worth it. And at times of the year, it is just not worth it. And for a lot of people, it's not worth it. It's like, why would I double, triple my efforts to get an extra 3 to 5% of results that nobody is going to know except for me? We could have a whole nother episode about why that's important.
Yeah.
However, for today, I think we got to really cover these 5 fundamentals that will get you almost everything that you want, probably more than what people have ever experienced, by placing them into a consistent rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to say how important that last word you said is, rhythm, because there is something hugely important about this cyclical feeling of like, I did the thing and then I know the next thing and then I do the next thing. And that almost happens automatically once you get that flywheel spinning. And so I think that's something I'd add to this conversation. The context overall is that, you know, don't just think of these things in a vacuum, but think of them as each helping one another build your momentum.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and we know that the more you do any one thing consistently, the greater the return on that, you know, investment is going to be for your health and wellness. And the beauty of these 5 things is that they're not, you know, massive undertakings. It's like you got to commit to some, you know, level of adherence in each category, and you start kind of building momentum, stacking wins, and then next thing you know, you're like, how do I optimize more? Because you're already crushing it, which is great. It's a great place to find yourself. It means you're already like doing really well. So let's start off with the first one.
Great.
Any guesses?
Well, you just told me what they were before we started recording.
Okay. What's the first one then, Satya?
Oh, wait, no.
Nate wasn't paying attention. Nate, what's the first one?
Environment.
That's the last one, so we'll come back to it.
Protein.
Protein, and I'm going to bucket this with something we're calling high performance foods.
Yeah.
Yep. So, why is this the first on the list? Because it's going to play a role in number 2 as well, but getting organizing, like, there's no question that nutrition and diet are going to have a massive impact on your health and your well-being. I would say 90+% of all, you know, illness that is out there is likely the product of overconsumption or, you know, underutilization of energy, not moving enough. But, you know, you can't have one without the other. So it's like you're over consuming relative to how much you're moving, but that is just happening so much for people. And why protein and high performance foods sit at the top of this list is that for a long time, we have been told, and people have been told, that calories are, you know, the thing we need to focus on because we're over consuming them.
Right.
And that has not proven to work for people as a strategy of like, okay, well, eat fewer calories. Why is that not happening more consistently if it's so simple? And so we then have had people go back and forth like, well, calories, you know, it's the calorie, you know, all calories are not equal. This calorie is, that calorie is not the same. And we have to talk about quality of food. And I think we just talked about it on a recent podcast episode, but this is like, you know, calories are all equal because it's just a unit of measure. But just like running a mile uphill is harder than running a mile downhill. They're both a mile. Which kinds of calories do you want to be eating? You want to be eating the calories that feel like you're, you know, running uphill, that are super hard and make you want to stop? Or do you want to eat the kinds of calories that feel like you're running downhill? Oh, it's easy to, you know, manage my hunger when I eat these types of foods. And so that's what we're saying is like, number 1 is getting enough protein, high protein foods, and eating high performance foods, which we are defining as foods that have a high amount of food volume or high amount of quantity for a low amount of calories. And the most basic thing, you know, that you could think of is, well, if I take, and I'm not going to get into this like touchy subject of like you should only eat full fat dairy versus non-fat dairy, but just take a look at like you take full fat Greek yogurt, a cup of one, and then you take a cup of low fat Greek yogurt, and for the same amount of food, which is going to fill up your stomach in the same amount of way, you're getting fewer calories. Okay. Another example would be if I bought 85% lean ground beef versus 93% lean ground beef. The same amount, 1 pound of each of those, you're going to have a dramatically different amount of calories because of the fat content in it. We'll switch gears and talk about something like, a starch or vegetable. If I eat 2 cups of potatoes versus 2 cups of broccoli, you're going to get similar fiber content. You're going to get similar amount of food, but the potatoes are going to have a lot more energy in them relative to broccoli. This is not to say any one of those foods is bad and off the list, but if you start to compile a list of what you are going to be your high performance foods that you like, foods that fill you up, foods that are not densely packed with calories and have a lot of volume to them, oftentimes have a lot of protein. If you create a list of 20 to 30 foods like that, you stock your home with it all the time, you make 90% of your meals with those foods because that's what people do anyway. They eat about 90% of their meals are the same every single week. There's about 10% variability. Then you are going to start to see dramatic success in managing calories without ever having to count calories, because you're going to be able to eat foods that you can eat until you feel full, and you're not going to be consuming massive amounts of calories because you prioritize protein and you picked foods off this list. This is the foundation of our 50 gram challenge and protein ebook that we're putting out. That's where everybody is going to get the bulk of their, nutrition during this challenge, and it has a profound impact.
Yeah. And I want to underscore that because when I am often just, listening into how people talk about nutrition online, in person, trying to understand how people think about it. And really the vast majority of the time, people are way under eating protein. Like it just happens so frequently that I think it almost can't be overstated that if you have not found a good rhythm with your nutrition, go investigate the amount of protein that you are literally eating each day and make sure that is really, really enough, because that one thing can just be the key to unlock a lot of other things.
If you've ever heard somebody say, gosh, I started this diet, I felt like I was eating twice as much food, but I started to lose weight. This is the basis of that. Yeah. You start to eat foods that fill you up more, have more protein in it. It's like more on your plate, and you're losing weight because that larger amount of food has actually less energy and you're feeling super full. There's a lot of great infographics and just examples out there, but one that I really love is just you fill up this plate full of fruits and vegetables, and it's like this mountain of food, and then on the other plate you just like sprinkle almonds and some nut butter and a few crackers and a piece of cheese and salami. Like you make a little charcuterie plate type of thing. And it's like the plate that has barely any of the charcuterie plate accoutrement is like 1,000 calories, whereas the other one that will literally, you would have to force feed yourself to even finish it, is like 400 calories. Yeah. And so people will say, gosh, I was eating twice as much and losing weight. And this is because they were under eating the nutrient dense foods. They were not eating enough of these high performance foods and protein, eating too much of the other thing.
Yep.
Okay. Hit that one. Number 2. Now let's see if you remember.
Muscle.
Okay. Build muscle, AKA resistance train. Now, this is number 2, and I said the first one plays into this. So we are eating protein, and we're prioritizing protein as number 1 because it also helps us maintain muscle. The more muscle you have, it is statistically shown across pretty much every decade of life, but in particular, aging past 40, 50, and most definitely 60, that the more muscle mass that you have, the greater your health span, longevity is going to be. You're going to have a decreased risk of all disease and death, mortality. I'm also saying that the more muscle you have, not only are you going to be healthier and more functional, but the more muscle mass you have, the easier it's going to be to maintain the body weight and body composition that you want to have. And therefore, the best way to, your muscles need two things really to grow, or to not to just grow, but to be like maintained and healthy. They need the right nutrients, which is amino acids, which comes from the protein that you're already eating. And it needs stress, mechanical stress. It needs to feel like, damn, that was harder than I wanted it to be. Standing on your feet for 10 hours is not that hard. We all have people will complain about it, but it's not a stimulus that's going to grow muscle. Get on the leg press and do a set of 10 to 15 reps to failure, and then do another 2 sets of that, with a 2 to 3 minute rest. Damn, now your muscles are screaming. They're like, whoa, that was way hard. And that mechanical stress does all kinds of little micro damages to the cells. It creates all kinds of hormonal changes and nervous system changes, cellular adaptations, protein synthesis. Everything starts to change because it's like, we got to fix this problem. The problem is that you're trying to lift heavy stuff, and we don't have adequate strength. So we got to build more strength, and the solution is better muscle mass and muscle health.
Yeah. And especially as we're getting older, I'm getting older, I just feel like that's such a great investment in my physical health in so many different ways for longevity. And because I know that what's ahead of me is just sort of a natural decline in my muscle tissue as I age if I don't counteract that. So it just feels even more important.
So for resistance training, the kind of, well, actually, let's go back. Let's say for protein and high performance foods, your goal with protein is to get a gram per pound of body weight. So your body weight in grams of protein every day. If you weigh 150 pounds, eat 150 grams of protein, and then fill the rest of your plate every day with high performance foods that are on our list. You can go to the high performance food blog post that we put on functionalbodybuilding.com. You can actually look up sample meal plans of exactly how to do that. Go check it out. We're not gatekeeping. Like, you got the tools. Go and do it.
Yeah.
For resistance training, 3 days a week at a minimum of, if you're doing 3 days a week of training, full body resistance training, meaning you're going to train 3 days a week. You want to cover all the major muscles and major movement patterns in each session. That would be ideal. That way you're hitting every muscle group 2 to 3 times per week. That is adequate and sufficient to stimulate muscle growth. Of course, you have to work hard enough. It can't just be going through the motions.
Right.
But you got to push yourself, relatively close to what feels like failure.
Yeah.
And when we have these group workouts here on Saturday with people of different levels of experience, I often just tell them, hey, we're going to do 4 sets of this thing. On your last one, I want you to feel like you're failing. And if I challenge anyone to try and fail on this, and sometimes people take me up on that, and it's great because the people in the group who are kind of novice, a little intimidated, they see somebody who's trained a little while, they see them fail, they see that nothing happened to them, they didn't get hurt, they just took themselves to the edge, and like, oh yeah, that's how I'm supposed to train. And so we try and show that more and more, but you got to push yourself intensely on your resistance training, minimum 3 days a week. If you can do more, great.
Yep.
Obviously, we have all kinds of different training splits that we offer in Persist, but beautiful. We've got 3 day a week full body resistance training programs in Persist now as of January 1, so you can jump into that. All right, remember to the number
3.
3.
Walking.
Walking. Yes. Cardiovascular training is an essential part of your health and wellness. And I would say that if I was going to revise this list, because cardio, and there's a certain like prescription of cardio is not on this list, because I don't think it is as high up as these other ones that are the top 5. But in place of cardio, we're going to say just more movement in your day is critical.
Yeah.
So, and here's why. It's the sedentary quality of people's lives that is, I think, is creating a lot of the health problems. So because we might go and train for 60 minutes or 75 minutes 4 times a week in the gym, but we sit the rest of the day, if you're in that category, you actually qualify as a sedentary individual. You don't get enough movement in your day. And movement, why is it so important? Well, getting more movement in your day is going to play into the 4th thing that we're going to talk about here in a moment, but it's essential for good circadian health, biology, rest, sleep, wakefulness. It's also important for just general energy expenditure, but the health benefits and the, let's call it quality of life benefits and the body composition benefits of moving more go beyond just the fact that you burn some extra calories each day.
Yeah.
It's got appetite regulation impacts. If you can time some of your walking around the meals that you're having, it's got blood sugar regulation benefits, which can enhance your cognition, how well you're thinking.
There's a study on it helps your creativity.
Helps your creativity, helps your mental health.
Yep.
Get that little, hit of anxiety, depression, something like that in your day. Go out for a 10-minute brisk walk. And I encourage everybody that's listening to figure out a 10-minute loop or a 10-minute out and back where from the place that they spend the most time each and every day. So at my house, if I walk from my office to the bottom of our hill, down to the end of the street and back, it takes me about 12 minutes to get out and back to, desk to desk. And that's a perfect little breakup. If I'm like, I hit a wall and something's bothering me, I'm just like, put it down, I go walk, and I walk brisk. And when I get back, it is as if I just took
You're a new man.
I just took a shot of Prozac. It's beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Okay. So walking, and for this, the easy thing for us to say would be to say, oh, go get 10,000 steps. But I don't think that that's a blanket, prescription or a recommendation for everybody, because we don't even know where you're starting.
Yeah.
If you've been walking 2,000 steps a day, to 5x the amount of walking that you're doing is
major.
It's major. It's like, it's like anything you're going to try and 5x. Like, hey, you've been going to the gym like once every 2 weeks. I want you to start going 5 days a week. It's like, whoa. How the F am I going to do that? right? So, invest in a pedometer. I don't care what it looks like. If it's, Nate's got the little pocket one that he has over there, which at this point he probably should upgrade, but
I have that same one.
No, there's a little clip-on pedometer that you can get online for $12.
Yeah.
Buy it, and this is your assessment tool. So put it on your waistband and just track your steps for 3 days. Get your average. Figure out how many steps am I walking each day on average, and then your goal is to add 1,000 to 2,000 steps to that as a starting point.
Great.
I think 10,000 steps is a great goal long term for people. However, it is not like the place that you need to start.
Yeah.
All right. And I already gave it away, but the next one is sleep. Okay. Now, I listened to a very good podcast on from the sleep scientist, but it was interesting because it was the the 7 most replayed moments from Diary of a CEO in 2023. And they all happen to be on how to lose body fat from all these different, like it was basically
Different
like
experts
the top 2 were from this person who's talking about how to lose body fat, and the other one was from this person losing body fat. This person was talking about, general dietary things that you could impact. This person was talking about fasting. This person was talking about sleep. This person was talking about, something else, but it was like everyone was wanting to replay the stuff on how to lose body fat. So anyhow, but the sleep scientist was, he was like, okay, well, here are 4 ways that we have seen that sleep deprivation and weight gain are really the most well-defined relationship in all of sleep science.
Yeah.
So like it's interesting. My one of my best friends in medical school, his parents were sleep scientists.
Oh.
And it was so funny because this he was like, I was kind of, it bothered me how much he was super, what's the word? Disciplined about his sleep.
Yeah.
Like he would show up late to lecture on a daily basis because he was like, I had to sleep. I had to get my sleep, I think he would sleep like 10, 11 hours a night. Like
Dang.
it was, yeah. And anyway, I'm like getting lost in my thoughts about John Bonnet. But one thing he said was like, well, I was like, well, what have they discovered? Like, what do they know? Like he was kind of like, well, there's really not much people know about sleep other than if you don't get it, you die. I was like, what? It's like, yeah, my parents have dedicated their whole life to sleep science, and pretty much all we know is that you die. So for a sleep scientist to say like one of the most defined relationships that they have in sleep science, which is kind of this mysterious box, which that was 12 years ago. So a lot has been done in that time, but it's very clear there is this very close relationship between depriving someone of sleep and weight gain. And there were really 4 ways that this happens. Number 1, when you are underslept, your appetite regulating hormones get out of whack. So leptin is what is the satiety hormone, and ghrelin is the hunger hormone. When you restrict sleep, you get a suppression of leptin, an increase in ghrelin of about 20 to 25%, both of them. So you're kind of swinging the balance in the wrong direction. Number 2, brain activity starts to shift. Basically, the reward center of your brain starts to light up when you're sleep deprived around like impulsive or like desires for like crappy foods, like sweet start, and your impulse control centers, so like prefrontal cortex is shut down. So you lack impulse control. You have like these deep urges, desire centers are like alive and awake when you're sleep deprived. So you are in a situation where there's food options. You're not going to have a lot of impulse control. You're going to have this strong urge to eat the things that aren't so great. So your willpower is going to go down and it's going to tank. Number 3, this looks at cannabinoids. So cannabis has compounds called cannabinoids. People likely know that when you ingest, cannabis, or you smoke cannabis, people talk about having the munchies. They get appetite upregulation. This is a common side effect. Well, we have our own cannabinoids that we produce, endocannabinoids. They're like part of our, neurochemistry. When you're sleep deprived, endocannabinoids are elevated. So you have this elevation of your own cannabinoids, which have an impact on hunger. So you have increased hunger because you have endocannabinoids are going up. And then the last part was that when you are sleep deprived, if you're losing weight during a period of time where you have sleep deprivation, it's like the Ozempic thing that we've discussed. More of your weight is being lost from lean tissue than it is from body fat. So a sleep deprived person who's in a calorie deficit, so somebody who's trying to like lose weight, they're calorie deficit, they're waking up super early or doing cardio late at night. They're waking up early to do extra cardio or going to bed super late to do extra cardio. They're cutting their sleep time to get more of that movement in, to get into the calorie deficit. They're increasing the likelihood that they're just burning muscle and not burning fat. So this is like a major flaw to the way we've laid out this hierarchy. Is protein and muscle mass are important to begin with.
Yeah.
So if you're crushing your sleep to get more, calorie deficit to lose weight, you may as well just be ripping muscle off of your body. So now who's ready to sleep some more, right?
Yeah.
So basically the idea is, how do we get ourselves into that 8-hour range of sleep per night? And this is where I think having something that is more objective than subjective is important, like putting on a wearable or using some type of device that helps track your sleep, I think is extremely powerful. And the sleep, the 5 tips for better sleep start with this. Number 1, regularity. Same time that you go to bed, same time you wake up, 7 days a week. Don't change it on the weekend. This will actually have a negative impact on the quality of the rest of your sleep during the week. 2, darkness. We talk about a dark cave-like room when you're sleeping, but here's another really big tip for the darkness. An hour before you go to bed, turn off half of or 2/3 of all of the lights in your house. Basically dim everything down. When everything gets dim for the hour before bed, it's a potent sleepy time impact. And I feel it every night because we dim the lights, we go into our kids' rooms, we read them books. By the time they're ready to go to bed, I'm already asleep. I'm like falling asleep on their bed. Yeah. And then I go into my bedroom and the lights are on because Megan's brushing her teeth or something like that. And I kind of get this second wind and it's totally effed up. It's like, you got to go right into that deep, dark sleep. Okay. Then next up, temperature. Keep the room, ideally, the ambient temperature of the room between 65 and 68 degrees is ideal. You can cozy up with a little, with some socks or something like that if you're feeling cold. But if your core body temperature needs to drop by about 1 degree for your body to fall asleep and to stay asleep, and it's way easier to do that in a cold room. So if that means having to turn on a fan, if you are fortunate to have air conditioning, if it's the wintertime, it's cold outside, crack a window, get your room cold. These are important things. My coach in college used to always say when we would get into the hotel room prior to game, like the night before a game, everyone crack a window, get the room cold. Mm-hmm. He used to talk about like getting more oxygen.
Yeah.
It was really all about getting more cold and restful sleep. And then there's, 5 tips for better sleep. Avoid alcohol. Alcohol massively fragments your sleep. It's not going to allow you to get good REM sleep. And then if you're having a hard time falling asleep, if you are laying awake in your bed, the rule is don't spend more than 30 minutes laying awake.
Yep.
If you are, you got to pattern disrupt. You got to get out of bed, go read a book for a little bit. When you're tired again, go try again.
Nice.
Don't be laying in bed for 45 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. Not good for patterning good sleep.
Great.
Okay, number 5 on our list is
environment.
Yeah. Satya, you take this one away.
This is my favorite one because I think that it has a huge impact on everything else. And I was actually just reflecting on this because I was thinking about how much I enjoy being in the FBB bubble where we have this like wonderful place to train and everybody trains very intensely and like effort is welcomed and everyone around you is like eating protein and hydrating and sleeping and like just doing all the things that we just mentioned. So
using squatty potties.
That's right. We've got a squatty potty at work. Benefits. But yeah, I mean, I think that it just makes such a huge impact when you are around other people who are just doing those little things that tend to rub off on you. And when you have your environment set up in a way that just easily facilitates the types of things you're trying to accomplish. So this can be a topic that can range, just having your dumbbells in your home pull-up bar, like right there. So you have no like friction if you want to get a home workout in, or having your walking shoes right by the door, and you have your 10-minute loop that you've mapped out by your house and you just know exactly what you're going to do. Like just doing the things that facilitate the actions that you want to take and making an intention to set up your environment and to be around others who support you in those things, have the right things in your house, have the right things in your routine. And when we were chatting before this episode, I was just saying how a lot of people think about fitness like, okay, I got to go join a gym and I have to go find the perfect program and I have to go eat these meals. And I think a huge hack is how can I put myself in the best environment to just be around people who are already doing these things so it can kind of rub off on me?
Yeah, I mean, and this we're talking about health and wellness for 2024, but whatever goals you may have, if it's relationship goals, if it's professional goals, in 2024, if you want to improve in some aspect of your career, who's doing what you're doing better than you? And can you go and be around those people? And one question I have for you is, hey, if this is true, right? Being around others is because I have this kind of a fear complex sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's okay, I want to get around people who are better than me.
Yeah.
And because I know it's going to help me become better. But if I get around them and they're better than me, then I'm bringing them down. Right? Because why would they want to be around me if I suck at this thing, if I'm not good? So how do people overcome that and be hey, you know what? I add value in some other, or what do they do? How do you overcome that?
Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm in a totally separate arena in my life. I'm in a very intense period of professional growth, and I'm around some people who are way better at me at doing the thing that I'm trying to learn right now. And it's actually amazing because they are happy to help me because for them it's simple. And at the same time, there are things that I do super well that are simple for me that are new to them, or they have not had that much experience with. And so I think that everybody has something to give to any group. It's just that we all have different experiences. And in the right group, I feel like those differences are appreciated and celebrated. And, even if I'm in a gym environment where people are so much better than me and I'm worried about being sort of the newbie person who's gonna bring everyone down, there's always something that you can bring to that situation. Okay, I'm gonna be try to be really positive and be a good vibe in this gym and pump people up and give them encouragement. And there are things that everybody can contribute in every setting, I believe.
Absolutely. And actually thinking about this, because I get the question a lot, I don't know. I think people are intimidated to train with me sometimes.
Yeah.
And going back to the Tony Robbins event, those people who listen to that podcast, we talked about the framework of the six basic core needs.
That's right. Yeah.
There's a need that we all have for somewhere in there to feel like we're contributing.
Yeah.
Giving back.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to feel, I don't look at training with other people as this is my contribution, I'm giving back, because it fills me up in a big way. But it is a way for me to feel hey, you know what? There's something that I do, just who I am, that helps elevate somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the comments I got from one of the parents, one of our daughter's, friend's parent who came and joined the workout last week. She's only been to a couple. She just said I come here because when I see you working out and working so hard, it pushes me a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I'm oh, well, hell yeah. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. You know, like she's getting something by being here to level up. Like that's her putting herself in an environment that's going to make her train harder.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I walk away with such a sense of like, you know, fulfillment on those days. Like, I'm like, God, you know, like we did something really special with a lot of people today. And that's just, it fills me up because I gave something, I contributed something to the people around me rather than just, you know, much of the life that we have as professionals is behind a computer screen or behind a camera, which is just different. This is it's harder to connect with that feeling of contribution when you don't see the people who are being impacted in the moment.
That's right. Yeah.
And of course the environment that you create in your household around, you know, going back to number one, high performance foods and protein. I just think that is just so powerful. I've had so many, you know, examples of that in the last month and a half.
Yeah.
Around the holidays, we've, you know, spent time with family at families' houses. You know, like my kids have, we've taken them to sleepovers at, you know, family members' houses. We had a couple nights sleepover at a hotel for Joey's birthday. Both brothers, my parents' house, like just in other people's environments. And it's like when we come home and I'm like, this is the environment, the food environment that we have kind of created. It's just so much easier, even for somebody like myself, who's relatively disciplined and structured, to just eat the foods that make me feel great. You know, it's like there's always lots of fruit on the counter. When I open the fridge, it's like protein, vegetables, you know, like, you know, there are days where I'm like kind of craving something and I like look into my fridge. I'm like, there's fucking nothing, you know, like it's
got
just
protein and veggies in here.
I gotta cook something. I'm like, this is keeping me on track. Like, yeah. So anyway, I think that's a killer list.
Yeah.
And if you guys have anything that's on your list that you feel like we missed, God, tell us.
Please.
Maybe we'll cover the cardio one soon.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us today. And I hope you're off to a kick-ass new year. And jump into the 50-gram challenge that we have coming.
Yeah.
Get our protein ebook to accompany it. There's tons of good information on high-performance foods, how to build these meals. I'm all in on this in 2024.
Samesies. You can find all that at functional-bodybuilding.com.
Let's roll.